Have you ever had a tenant from hell? I am talking about someone who not only trashes your place, but also has the audacity to stop paying rent while still living there. Well, buckle up, because today, I am sharing a story about a landlord who faced this exact nightmare and came up with the ultimate, most satisfying payback. This isn't just a story about revenge. It's a masterclass in creative problem solving. So, let's set the scene. Our landlord, we'll call him Mark, was a pretty regular guy. He had a small rental property, a nice little house he'd saved up for years to buy. For a while, everything was great. He found what he thought were the perfect tenants, a young couple who seemed responsible and friendly. They paid their rent on time for the first 6 months, and Mark thought he'd hit the jackpot. But then, things started to go sideways. The first sign of trouble was a missed rent payment. Mark sent a polite reminder, thinking maybe they just forgot. The couple apologized, promised to pay soon, but the money never came. The next month, same story, and the month after that. Soon, Mark was several months behind on rent, and his polite reminders were being met with excuses, and eventually, just radio silence. They stopped answering his calls, replying to his texts, or answering the door. Mark started the official eviction process, but as any landlord knows, that can be a long, frustrating, and expensive journey. We're talking months of legal paperwork, court dates, and waiting, all while these tenants were living in his house for free. And it gets worse. Mark got reports from the neighbors about loud, disruptive parties happening at all hours. The once beautiful front yard was now a mess of overgrown weeds and scattered trash. The place was being destroyed. Mark felt completely powerless. The law was moving at a snail's pace, and every day his property was suffering more damage. He was losing thousands of dollars in unpaid rent and facing thousands more in potential repair costs. He felt stuck, angry, and honestly, a little defeated. He would drive by his own house, see the curtains drawn, and just fume, knowing they were inside, living their best life on his dime. This is the point where many people would give up or just wait for the courts, but Mark was different. One sleepless night, stewing over the injustice of it all, an idea sparked in his mind. It was a wild, unconventional idea. It was audacious, it was brilliant. He thought, if they want to treat my house like a public space, maybe I should treat it that way too. His plan began with a little research into local laws and ordinances. He needed to be sure that what he was about to do was completely, 100% legal. He didn't want to give them any ammunition to use against him in court. He found that as the property owner, as long as he gave proper notice, he had the right to access the exterior parts of his property for maintenance and improvements. And that was the loophole he needed. The first step of Mark's plan was a porta potty. Yes, you heard me right. A bright blue, impossible to miss portable toilet. He had it delivered and placed right in the middle of the front lawn. It was perfectly legal. He was, after all, anticipating future construction work on the property. The neighbors were a bit confused, but Mark politely explained the situation, and most of them, tired of the disruptive tenants, were secretly cheering him on. The tenants inside, they were furious. They couldn't exactly complain about a porta potty on the lawn of a house they were paying for, could they? But Mark was just getting warmed up. Phase 2 was even better. A few days later, Mark hired a local band. Not just any band, a high school polka band, complete with an accordion and a tuba. He set them up on the front lawn for a free public concert, again, totally legal. It was his property, and he was simply hosting a community event during acceptable daylight hours. The sound of cheerful, very loud polka music filled the air for hours. You can just imagine the tenants inside, trying to ignore the relentless papa right outside their window. The concert drew a small crowd of amused neighbors who brought lawn chairs and enjoyed the show. The tenants were livid. They called the police to complain about the noise. When the officers arrived, Mark calmly showed them his permit for the gathering and explained it was a one-time event on his own property. The police couldn't do anything. The tenants were trapped in a polka-filled prison of their own making. Mark, for the first time in months, felt a sense of control. He was fighting back, not with anger, but with absurdity. Now for the grand finale. This was Mark's masterstroke. He noticed that the house was located on a fairly busy street with good foot traffic. So, he put up a huge banner on the front of the house. It wasn't threatening or rude, it simply said, "Free housing experiment. See how long you can live here without paying. Everyone welcome to watch." He also set up a live streaming camera, pointed squarely at the front door, and posted the link on a local community forum with the title, "Watch Our Local Freeloaders." This was the tipping point. The public humiliation was more than they could handle. Their faces were now semi-famous in the local online community. People started driving by the house just to look. Some would even honk or cheer. The tenants, who had been so brazenly ignoring the law and common decency, couldn't handle the spotlight. The constant presence of the porta potty, the lingering memory of the polka music, and now, the public shame of the banner and live stream was the final straw. Within 48 hours, Mark received a frantic call. It was the tenants. They were begging him to take the banner down. They said they would be out by the end of the day, and they were. Mark arrived that evening to find the keys in the mailbox and the house completely empty. It was a mess, of course. The repairs would be costly, but they were gone. He didn't have to wait months for the court to evict them. He had reclaimed his property through sheer, unadulterated creativity. When the dust settled, Mark had to spend a good chunk of money fixing the damage, but he said it was worth it. He had taken a terrible situation and turned it into a legendary story of landlord justice. He learned a valuable lesson about thinking outside the box when the system fails you. His story became a local legend, a cautionary tale for rogue tenants, and an inspiring one for frustrated landlords everywhere. So what do you think? Was Mark a genius, or did he go too far? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. It's a wild story, but it just goes to show that sometimes the best way to deal with a nightmare is to get a little creative. And maybe hire a polka band. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more content just like this. We love sharing these incredible stories of everyday people taking matters into their own hands. Until next time, stay creative and stay savvy. See you in the next video.